Hi guys, and welcome to episode 25 of the In the Hub podcast, brought to you by Playbox Technology UK. In this week's episode, we speak to director, producer, photographer, and all-round visual content creator, Mark Pengelly. Mark's career has seen him work on some incredible award-winning projects in over 50 countries across the world. We really hope that you enjoy this episode. Good morning, Mark. Welcome to the In the Hub podcast. How are you doing today?
Good morning, Neil. Good. Yeah, it's great to be here. Thanks for inviting me on.
No, of course. Thanks for coming on. So I think we'll just launch straight into the questions then, if that's okay with you, Mark.
Okay, yeah.
Awesome. So, Mark, how did you actually get started with filming and photography?
Okay, so 25 years I've been at it now. God, mate, makes me feel old man. I think if you've got to be doing anything for 25 years, you've got to have a real passion for it. So, yeah, a passion for film, photography, stills, the moving image. I had from, really quite sort of early on as a kid playing around in my grandma's Kodak Brownie and watching, the black and white films on a Sunday, really sort of stoked that passion. And then, I wasn't much of an academic growing up. I much preferred to be out doing things and working with my hands. My first round of college wasn't too successful, but because of that, I just went and studied what I'd done well in at GCSEs, which was business, art, and graphic design. I wasn't really aware you could do courses in film and photography back then. I grew up in the suburbs. It was nice, but it's not the most inspiring place.
No, you're right.
There's some good colleges and universities nearby, but it was sort of, I didn't have that sort of grounding straight away. So I dropped out of college the first time around, spent some time traveling and working. And I suppose it was that travel that sort of really broadened my mind and really sort of brought photography to me. I think it's sort of one of the best educations you can have. I still do, just to get out there and see real life.
Yeah.
So I started looking at a lot of photography books. The Magnum photography books were a huge sort of influence. Magnum was a collective of international photographers that came together after World War II. I suppose it was one of the sort of very first agencies or cooperatives. So you can imagine these guys work from shooting all around the world in the 1930s and 1940s. It's just extraordinary. I urge anyone into the visual arts to check out their archives. We think we're going for a difficult time now, and we are, but it really helps put it into perspective. A sort of quite recent, shocking, and brutal period of the world's history. So I went back into college, studied media, TV production, photography, then went into undergraduate degree in film photography and television, and then moved into London. Worked for various studios, production companies, doing everything: driving, painting studios, delivering equipment, cleaning, servicing cameras, tripods, lenses. Ended up with one of London's leading equipment rental companies, which is quite a sort of well-worn path, into that side of the industry. So I did sort of 5 years with them, worked up to director of photography, going out on a lot of different content around the world. Went freelance about 15 years ago.
It's that leaping into freelance that a lot of people find obviously daunting and really challenging. Was that always going to be the kind of end goal for you? Was it, or was it, more of just a spur of the moment decision?
It is very daunting. It's not a sort of a step. I don't think when you start off you have that in your mind, but I don't really know the figures. I'd guess 80% of production work is on a freelance basis these days. Even back with the camera firm that I used to work for, I don't think they or many others in London now keep a full-time crew on board. It just wouldn't make economic sense. There's so many freelancers out there, so you pick it's all short contract, job by job, which has obviously got huge benefits and huge disadvantages.
Yeah, yeah.
It's some days you just sort of wish you're in a secure full-time
Yes,
job,
100%.
and then others, you just sort of love the freedom of freelance life.
So, Mark, you pretty much already answered this one, but is this the only industry for you? And what makes the art of visual content creation so appealing for you?
So yeah, that passion, you never get bored of it. Um, like I just mentioned, it's the sheer diversity of areas that you can work in. I've been really lucky. We're out on every sort of different area: news, sports, music, art, world travel, reality TV, virtual reality, feature films, television drama, commercials. Really sort of did get a great sort of grounding across every aspect of the industry. So yeah, you never get bored by it. Always something different.
And just moving more to kind of like industry trends and industry news, how do you think the traditional film industry is coping with the boom of streaming and digital video? Do you think that film will ever be the same again?
I think it's coping very well. We've never had such a multitude of platforms to watch content
Yeah.
on. Obviously COVID restrictions have had us watching far more of it. I'd say we're better catered to now than at any point in history, but perhaps too well. We're sort of at that point where you can literally watch anything ever made ever
Yeah.
at the click of a button.
Yeah.
I mean, film itself will evolve. I think people will still go to traditional cinemas and multiplexes, perhaps not in the same numbers. It's very interesting to see the big blockbuster studios now coming straight to streaming. And it'll be interesting to see if that continues post COVID. I think it will, to be
Yeah,
honest.
it's kind of crazy, isn't it? It's almost like in my mind, I'm thinking it might be even too easy now to get access to new titles and stuff like that. It almost feels like you're not putting in the work to go and see it. It's almost like it's just there for you now. Do you know what I mean? It's
Yeah, no, 100%. I'm sure we've all had that moment at night. Like I say, you can
yeah,
watch anything ever made ever, and it's the classic question. So, what do we want to watch?
yeah, it's an abundance of choice, isn't it? I almost feel guilty now. Um, so a bit of a tough question, Mark, but we'll kind of run back to your career. Is there a particular project that you've worked on that stands out for you, and why is that?
Um, okay, so yeah, I've been really very fortunate. I've worked all across the globe. I've worked a lot in Africa and Asia, for the NGOs, non-governmental organisations or charities. I've worked for WaterAid, the Red Cross, Save the Children, Plan International, Plan UK, across a lot of Africa: Ethiopia, Nigeria, Malawi, Mozambique, Mali, Ghana, Sierra Leone, Kyrgyzstan in Central Asia. Shooting a lot of fundraising documentaries, television commercials, stills campaigns, sort of celebrity endorsements. um, uh, like stunning countries,
Yeah,
and continent, warmest people in the world. Really, really touched my heart over the years. Some of them have brutal poverty and lack of government support. So it makes the NGOs work so important. And
hmm,
to see the sort of change between a pre and a post intervention village, which has had access to clean water, sanitation, hygiene, education, basic stuff, is a sight to behold. It's a remarkable transformation, that immediately helps lives,
yeah.
especially women and children, for very not much money at all. And then on the flip side of that, again, I've been very lucky. I've done sort of behind the scenes, publicity on quite a number of big movies. The standouts were Everest and Expendables 3, 2013, 2014. I mean, Everest was amazing. We were, trekking up through the Himalayas, flying
God,
through the valleys in
yeah.
helicopters, landing in remote mountain monasteries. It was nothing short of magical. and then Expendables 3, just for its sheer star factor, guns, explosions, tanks, choppers. You couldn't move on that set without bumping into a megastar. Stallone, Schwarzenegger, Mel Gibson, Antonio
Yeah.
Banderas,
Oh, I would have loved
Wesley
that.
Snipes. It was insane
Yeah,
fun.
it's almost a dream come true there.
Mm.
But yeah, it's great that you've obviously been to so many different locations, and like you said earlier, travel being the foundation of what inspires you. Because oftentimes you can get a little bit bogged down being in the UK, can't you? And seeing the same old scenery all the
I
time.
think that's more relevant now than ever. I mean, I think it'll be a little while before we can get to travel again like
Yeah,
that. And
yeah,
and I think that new technologies mean perhaps we don't need to travel as far as
yes.
this current crisis has just very much proven.
Yeah, and I think going along the lines of technology and technological advancements, I imagine the film set nowadays, the film set environment looks a lot different to probably how it used to look about 20 years ago. Is all of this new technology making film production more simple, or is it just adding more confusion to the mix, in your opinion?
Both. It's like our smartphones, they make life a lot easier, don't they? Banking, communication, navigation, etc., and certainly less time consuming. But there's definitely a payoff for that ease, isn't there? I think with the smartphones, it's your personal data, that you're selling off. But in terms of moving image and stills tech, it's just evolving at a staggering pace. It doesn't show any sign of stopping. You're always learning. There's always more knowledge to be gained. There's new cameras, new lights, platforms, codecs. You sort of need to be
Yeah,
on top of it. So yeah, it can be extremely confusing. When I started, shooting stills, it was just on 35 millimeter film. There were just a couple of digital cameras out. It had been around since the early 90s, but it didn't really take off until sort of early 2000s. But back then you
yeah,
were looking at what, 3 to 6 megapixel
yeah.
those cameras.
I remember.
What are we
Yeah,
up to now? 40 plus phase one. I think I've got 150 megapixel camera.
crikey.
So, and it's the same in television and film. Even as late as 2008,
Hmm.
some shows were still shooting in standard definition,
Yeah, yeah.
a whopping 720 by 576 pixels. So, yeah, it's really in this last decade that it's gone supersonic.
Yeah,
2K, 4K, 8K. They're now shooting on some features. I think 4K is fast becoming the new norm. Everyone's got a 4K telly now, and as web streaming becomes faster, I think that's the next hurdle. You'll really start seeing the rise in web-based 4K. There's a fair bit already on Vimeo and YouTube, Netflix Premiere stream it. So if you've got a 4K screen, it's definitely worth checking out.
and kind of branching off that a little bit, in your line of work, whether it be stills or moving image, where do you find that most of your time is spent? In the field actually shooting the stuff, or in the editing suite?
Uh, it depends on the job. Mostly, I'm in the field, but with all that new tech, you can easily spend many more hours in the edit or data management, data transferal. I did a 360 VR shoot a couple of weeks ago and spent a day shooting and 2 days data managing and transferring. So it all it all really sort of easily adds up, just the sheer
Yeah,
amount of data that the cameras shoot. Which is why, on set, stills or a film set these days, you have a specific department now, dedicated to just doing that data management. It can be huge, sort of thousands of
yeah,
terabytes.
yeah. Do you enjoy every process of it? So obviously, I know in the field it's probably really exhilarating, but thinking back to when you used to, go and edit, do you enjoy every aspect of the process? Or
Yeah, I mean, the data management can get quite stressful.
yeah,
I
I
suppose
imagine.
it
Yeah,
depends how everyone has sort of mindsets in a different way. I mean, in the field can obviously be very stressful. Long days and
hmm,
lots of travel and equipment problems and whatever.
yeah,
I think, yeah, it's keeping a level head, keeping logical. not rushing so much, which can all be very difficult in the heat of the moment.
So, Mark, if we could just go off on and talk a little bit about social media. What platform do you think is the most valuable for visual content creators, in your opinion? How does this platform complement your creative processes?
Okay, so I mean, you've got all the obvious, YouTube, Vimeo, Instagram, Facebook, Netflix, Amazon are obviously all strong platforms for film and video. I think it depends on your format. If you've shot an hour-long passion project documentary, I'd say put it on Vimeo. Or a reel of your best work that you want your peers to see. Perhaps Facebook. A gorgeous promo or commercial on Instagram. But when I was a student, our lecturers really pushed Marshall McLuhan's "The medium is the message." McLuhan said that back in 1964. He was, just focused on the medium of that time, which was movies, print, and radio. But I think you can really extend that theory now onto the different strains of social media with similar connotations. I think as we fall further into the rabbit hole of social media, I hope clearer avenues will present themselves for that message with a variety of providers. You don't, the recent Cambridge Analytica debacle and the ongoing fake news thing really, puts into question, people at Facebook's dominance, Google perhaps. So I hope that clearer platforms can sort of win through.
Yeah, I think we are seeing a kind of trend in that, aren't we? About privacy and data and all that being transparent.
Yeah.
It was only up until, I guess, the Cambridge Analytica stuff that we almost thought Facebook were doing us a favour, didn't we? And we were like giving all of this for free, letting us connect with people across the world. And it always comes at a cost. And in that case, it's data, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%, 100%. And I think people are really coming onto it now. And which is a great thing, and you can use those platforms to share that data about those platforms. So it's a circle of knowledge.
Yeah, it's got to work both ways, hasn't it? So, Mark, this is a question we ask at the end of every podcast. In one word, what do you see as the future of the broadcasting and film industry?
Immersive. I mean, definition is something along the lines of a screen display generating a 3D image which surrounds the user. Virtual reality, VR, it's got off to a bit of a slow start. Lots of investment from the big boys, Facebook, Google, Apple. But slow take up of the at-home headsets or on location studio setups. We were shooting a lot of 3D VR content a couple of years ago. It's tailed off for now. AR or augmented reality is sort of already with us. It's in your phone. It's in some of your houses. I think for better or worse, that high-tech evolution will continue to assimilate into our lives. Yuval Noah Harari is an author I really respect. He did a trilogy of books in the last few years, Sapiens, Homo Deus, and 21 Lessons for the 21st century. He goes into quite sort of frightening and illuminating detail of where it could go in the future. Here's a quote for him, which carries on from what we were just talking about. But if you want reliable information, pay good money for it. If you get your news for free, you might well be the product.
It just rings true, doesn't it?
Yeah. And then to sort of, to take that back to film and the future of film, I mean, esteemed British director of photography, Roger Deakins, has just gone on record, I think last week, saying that most mainstream films will be created in computer in the next 10 or 20 years. Animation and live action will merge.
Yeah.
And he means everything: actors, locations, lighting.
Yeah.
That's from one of the most in-demand cinematographers in the world. So on that note, flipping back to how I started, I think if you're young now and you want to be a film director, cinematographer, and editor, I'd say maybe you'd be better looking at computer science degrees than a practical film one. Still with your passion for the arts. Tech is evolving at such a fast rate. I mean, this evening, 7:15, sorry to date this piece, but we're landing on Mars again tonight.
Yes. Yeah.
NASA is landing. So I'm really excited about
Yeah.
that. I'm going to watch it live. Hopefully, it
Yeah.
touches
Hopefully.
down okay. But extraordinary example of human ingenuity and where we're going. I think
Definitely.
in 20 years' time, yeah, I can't imagine. There's signs of where we will be. Where will
Hmm.
traditional stills and moving image be? Yeah, I think far more based in the virtual or computer. Not to say it's going to will ever die off. People will always want to document,
Oh, 100%.
their moment and what's in front of them. It's a human trait.
It's because yeah, thinking back now, it's at the moment, massive resurgence in 35 millimeter, photography, and I mean, people buying disposable cameras still just to have something to print out and put on their wall or
Yeah,
keep.
yeah.
So I completely agree. I think there's always going to be a space for that, but we really can't say where we'll be in the next 20 years, can we? It's anyone's
It's
guess.
interesting times. As I say, frightening and illuminating at the same time. I
Yes,
think it's easy
100%.
to be down sometimes, and especially down at the moment, about what's sort of happening and across the whole world. But I think on a positive note, we're heading in the right situation. The speed of the vaccine that's come out, and
Yes, yeah.
Mars landing tonight, and all this technology.
No.
There's never a better time for science, for
Yeah.
chemistry, medicine, and film and photographic and media production. I think it's using this technology to its best advantage. So it's never a better time for storytellers, and then all those platforms to put those that content on it. It's sort of technology democratizes. Um, 20 years ago, you needed a lot of money to make any kind of film, and now anyone can do it on their phone. You've got camera edit suite, grading suite, and marketing suite. You've got an entire Warner Brothers, in your iPhone, or
Yeah.
so yeah, it's quite remarkable.
Yeah. No one could have seen that coming. So, just to finish on then, Mark, is there any exciting projects that you've got in the pipeline that you can talk to us about?
Hopefully, fingers crossed. Yes, so much uncertainty at the moment, but if things make a return to normal. My next big project was the Euros football competition. It was cancelled last year. Hopefully, it's on this summer, so I'll be following one of the top flight teams as a director of photography on their journey through the competition. And then in lockdown, I passed my Civil Aviation Authority drone qualification. So I've been doing a lot of droning. Hope to have my first commercial shoot on that coming up. Again, in terms of tech advancement, the drones have gone supersonic in the last 5 years. They're really, really powerful filmmaking
I was going to,
tools.
could 10 years ago, could you picture yourself, manning a drone and that being the bulk of a work on a
Yeah,
shoot?
exactly. The technology has just turned around so quickly now that they fit in your palm. Can shoot 4K. It's extraordinary what they can do. But they can be quite dangerous and risky. So
Yes,
do,
you've got to
uh,
remember that
do,
sometimes,
yeah,
yeah.
do take care. And then, hopefully, just yesterday I was talking about hopefully shooting elephant conservation documentary in Zimbabwe as
Ah,
well. So
okay,
it's
awesome.
little stuff like that. But amazing. Just really hope that we can sort of get back to normal. It's been a very difficult time for everyone.
Yeah,
So it's just sort of hanging in there and looking to a bit of a brighter future.
yeah. No, it sounds really good, Mark. So, how can people get in touch with you and find out more about anything that you're up to?
So please check out my work. It's all on my website, markpengelly.com. The spelling will be on the front of your podcast. All my details are on there, email, etc. I'd be really happy to answer any questions anyone has about getting into the industry or what we discussed today. I wish this sort of thing was around when I first started out. Um, I think one of the best things you can do is in starting your career is to talk to people, listen to people that are already doing it. And most people are really forthcoming and helpful. So, and podcasts like yours are superb. There's a great list of resources. Just just in your archive already. So yeah, it's a really good thing to be doing.
I really appreciate that, Mark. And again, thanks so much for taking the time to come on and speak to us today. It's been really insightful, been really helpful, and it's great to hear some of your experiences.
You too. Great. No, thank you.